The Angels officially introduced Ron Washington as the next Halos manager at a really great press conference on Wednesday. And I think it fired up everybody, John. Even non-Angel fans were fired up. So let's dive into the highlights. Let's discuss which parts stood out to us the most, and then ask this question: what's next? It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Angel content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel. And right now, new customers like you can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
We really appreciate you being here every single weekday, the only place where you can get daily Angels coverage. Again, Monday through Friday. We love everybody who tells us where they listen or where they're able to watch. A lot of people appreciate that we put the shows out early, Mike, so they can listen to it on their morning commute. Podcasts and morning commutes, they just make morning commutes so much better, don't they?
It's just mornings and coffee. You got to have mornings, coffee, and podcasts.
That's right. That's right. Hey, on today's show, we're recapping the highlights from the Ron Washington press conference. The Angels officially introduced him as the next Halos manager. And more than just the highlights, there are some things that stood out to us about what it means for the team, what it means for 2024 and beyond. And as fans, there were some things that I think are important to discuss on today's show. But Mike, let's get into the highlights and just give everybody a kind of a recap of what went down yesterday at that press conference.
Well, the Angels held a press conference yesterday morning, Wednesday morning, introducing Ron Washington to the media and officially making him the Angels manager for 2024 and 2025. Perry sat next to him, introduced him. Artie Moreno was not there. We'll talk a little bit about him soon. Mickey Moniak, Patrick Sandoval, Kenny Rosenberg were all present and in the audience with the media. And can I say that they all three looked starstruck? They looked excited to have Wash as their manager. Perry Manassian spoke. He said he had a notebook that he keeps by his bed so that he can scribble down notes and ideas in the middle of the night. He writes down the best qualities he's seen in managers that he's worked with or he's been around. Mm-hmm. He named Sparky Anderson, Tom Kelly, Tommy Lasorda, Bobby Cox, Cito Gaston, and Bobby Valentine. Almost all of those are great managers. You can figure out which one I'm not a fan of. I think they're all great guys, though. Perry said that Wash checked every box that he was looking for in the next manager. And watching Perry introduce Wash, Johnny, you could tell that he was so thrilled to pick this guy, over the moon about it. And we've talked about it a lot on this show, but it needs to be repeated. Perry needed a chance to pick his guy, and it seems like, Johnny, he finally got the guy that he wanted.
Yeah, you could definitely see that on Perry's face as he introduced Ron Washington and even spoke to Patrick and Gooby afterward on Bally Sports West as well. So then Ron Washington gets up to speak. He asked the audience to be patient while he buttoned up his uniform. He said, I was told I had to button it all the way up. And then once he finished, he said, now I'm legitimate. And I loved that. And this is great, Mike. I loved what he had to say. He said, once they finish putting a coaching staff together, that we're going to like what they get out of the players. Here's a quote. We're going to put a staff together that when the players go blind, we see for them. And when they can't slow down their heartbeat, we'll slow it down for them.
Brilliant. Brilliant. It's what we've been wanting for 10 years, Johnny, or
You're
at least
telling me,
in the last 4 or 5 years, right?
You're telling me Matt Wise couldn't do that?
No, that's exactly what. Yeah.
That's
exactly what he's saying. Yeah.
Here's what else he had to say. I'm overjoyed to have the opportunity to lead. I'm a natural born leader. I've always been part of winning. I don't know anything else. Mike,
love it.
I love the way that he walked the line of like, I'm humbled to be here.
Yeah.
But also, here's what I bring to the table and what you need to know about me. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't like bragging. It was just like, this is who I am. This is what I'm good at.
Yep.
And here you go, everybody. Like, this is who I am. So I really appreciated that. Well, he spoke about how there's a lot of negative dialogue around the Angels.
I really like this.
But that he's going to help the players work through that and bring joy and passion back to the Angels and the community.
Yeah, one highlight is when he said, our whole focus is going to be to run down the West, and you can take that to the bank and deposit it. Somebody in the crowd shouted, yeah! Like, and Johnny, I think you thought it was Mickey Moniak,
It
right?
sounded like Moniak, because
Yeah.
I know that they spoke before the press conference, and I can't imagine anybody from the press would have done that. And so just the fact, like, it sounded like Moniak to me. So I think that fired him up.
I just love what he had to say. And I also love that he was like, when I took over the Rangers in 2007, the Angels were the target. And then we overcame them, went to the World Series, right? And then he said, we're going to be the target again. And we want you as fans in the stands when we're that target. Man, that just got me really fired up. He said a lot of really great things. And he talked about how they got to teach every single day and never stop. And I so was overjoyed to hear that. We have to love the players every single day, and we can't stop. We have to help them understand that just because you fail doesn't make you a failure. You can fail today, and you can make up for that failure tomorrow. Ron did also say regarding the young players that they need to be patient in their growth and consistent in the message that they give them. Man,
that's all I want, Mike, is consistency from the top down. So, like,
can we just end the show right now? Because I think we've said everything that needs to be said.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we break these down. And again, we're going to do that a little bit later on in the show, but we want to give everybody a good sense of how the press conference went in case you weren't able to watch it or follow along. Ron then took questions from the media, was asked about getting back to a managerial position. He said that he kept himself relevant and kept making a difference in the lives of the players that he worked with wherever he went, knowing that he'd be back to managing one day. And I love that sentiment of like, keep yourself relevant, keep yourself giving back to others. He was asked by Alden Gonzalez of ESPN about the 280 text messages and 57 voicemails that he received on his phone and which one resonated with him the most. And I love this, Mike. He said that they all resonated with him because it was a reminder of how much love there is out there in the world. And then he took 3 days to respond to every single one.
I'll bet you the 280 text messages were either players right now under the age of 35, and the 57 voicemails were former players over the age of 45.
Well done. Well done. Listen, I can't even respond to all the happy birthdays on my Facebook wall every year. And so I'm just kind of like, thanks, everybody.
Does anybody go on Facebook anymore anyway?
No, I know. And that's the other part of it is, again, over 45 Facebook, under 35 everywhere else. Yeah. Ron also explained how things went down during the hiring process. Perry flew out to New Orleans and met with Ron for 5.5 hours. Perry is like the king of dinners, Mike. He met with Noah Syndergaard and had dinner with him.
It works.
And now, it works. Let's sit down and have a meal. You got to have a meal. This isn't a meal. This is soup. Sorry.
Did he crumble any crackers? I wonder if he crumbled crackers.
Ron then flew out to Arizona to meet with Perry and John Carpino and Artie Moreno. Artie actually met Ron at the airport in Arizona and picked him up from the airport. So Ron was really impressed that Artie was the first one there to pick up Ron. He said that they drove in the car for about an hour and a half, got to speak on baseball, Artie's hopes and visions for the team and the job.
Don't skip over that because I think that that's really important. And I know Artie's enemy number one, right? Villain number one. He's the heel. And this statement that you just read makes me think that there is a babyface turn somewhere in Artie Moreno, because I love that he decided to pick him up. I love that he decided to have some time with him before anybody else. And I love that he shared his hopes and vision for the team and the job. And Ron Washington isn't a doofus. He's not a dumb guy, right? He's a smart, great leader. And so I don't think Artie was trying to dupe him at all. I just think Artie was really sharing what he feels. And deep down, I think Artie has a desire to win. I think he has a longing for this team to be really great. And the fact that he's allowing Perry to make his decisions and then Ron Washington coming on this team, I think is a good indication. Hear me, a good indication that perhaps some things are changing. Again, He's the villain. I get it. People are frustrated with him. We've been frustrated with him. But I think that those things are small nuggets that say, okay, you're showing us something that looks like you really want to win.
Can I just say the fact that we were all excited for him to sell the team is almost the same as like, Artie, just leave things alone.
Yes.
Let Perry hire his guy. Let Ron manage this team and do these things as the owner. Go pick up your new employee.
Yep.
Show them a good time and spend time with them and talk baseball because we know you love baseball. But Mike, yes, it would be great if he sold the team. But really all he has to do is just leave things alone, hands off, right? Like let the people do what they're meant to do. Okay, finally. The Angels shared a video message from Ron Washington, and I thought this was really great. He said the main thing we want to do is bring back the passion and the joy and bring the wanting to leave your home and come sit and watch a tremendous baseball game because that's exactly what we are planning on bringing back to the Los Angeles Angels. Ron said, I remember the day when you guys were the target,
Here it is.
and now we're going to put us back on top and become the target again. And when we become the target, we want you guys in the stands cheering this on. Mike, how did it make us feel? How did it make Angel fans feel? Why don't you go first?
I'm going to run through a wall. I'm going to run through a wall.
That was everybody yesterday.
I was so excited. I was doing backflips. He said everything that he needed to say. He showed the posture he needed to show. I get that we need to see potential turn into performance, and I'm ready to give him that opportunity. And I'm not optimistic in the sense that we're going to be buttercupped. I'm optimistic because I really feel like this is the first guy since Mike Scioscia that can command this team and command this team really, really well. What about you?
It fires me up. I mean, but more than that, there's enthusiasm, which feels like hasn't quite been there, especially with like Nevin and Osmus and even Madden. Like I know Madden is a quirky guy, but when Ron speaks, I want to listen.
Yeah.
Like he took us to church.
Right.
Yesterday. He took us to baseball church yesterday. Right. And so there's substance there. I believe in what Ron wants to do. And I actually believe that he wants the best for the Angels. And now it's time for them to, put their money where their mouth is and go out there and do it. Speaking of which, coming up on Locked On Angels, what did Wash say he would talk to Mike Trout about? And what stood out to us from this press conference? And we're going to get into a discussion about those highlights coming right up.
After that presser, I would put money down on Ron Washington leading this team to the playoffs because he fired me up. And so where would I put money down? I could probably go to FanDuel, right?
Yes.
Because they're the sponsor of this show. And right now, new customers like me, like you, can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, well, why not do it right now? Why not join right now? There's no better time to get in on all the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including the spreads, player props, over-unders, and a whole lot more. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon, and you can kick off this NFL season and get ready for the next Major League Baseball season very, very soon. Again, fanduel.com/lockedon. And remember, FanDuel is an official betting partner of the NFL.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Hey, Locked On Everydayers, don't forget that Locked On has launched the first ever 24/7 national sports streaming channel on YouTube. It's Locked On Sports Today. It's here for you 24/7, covering the top stories in sports. And then, of course, you get local experts from each team at Locked On. And then you even have the national shows covering all the big stories from every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Again, it's the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel right here on YouTube. We want to have you be part of that.
So Ron Washington definitely had us fired up and all Angel fans fired up on social media. But which parts in what he said stood out to us as longtime fans, as everydayers, and which parts gave us an idea of how 2024 is going to go? Johnny, he talked about something called inside out syndrome. Can you break that down, tease that out for us?
Yeah, he was calling it inside out syndrome. And what he meant by that was those on the inside of the Angels organization know what they have and what they're capable of.
Mm.
And those on the outside, they're going to have to wait and see what the Halos are able to do. And Mike, that for me, let me ask you this. Doesn't it seem like that's how it is being an Angel fan?
Yeah.
Because you and I are in it every day. Our Locked On Everydayers are in it every day. We know more than what the average baseball fan or somebody who's a fan of another team knows what the Angels are capable of. I think about it this way. When Patrick Sandoval was tearing it up in the World Baseball Classic against Team USA, and people were really impressed with him, and they had no idea who he was. They had no idea.
Great point.
He was an Angel.
Yep.
And so, yeah, he didn't have a great 2023.
Who's this guy?
Right? He didn't have a great 2023, but the way he finished 2022 and then came into the WBC, we know what we have internally. And now I think Ron Washington knows what the Angels have internally. A lot of people just think of the Angels as that team that couldn't get Trout and Ohtani to the playoffs, but you and I and our listeners and viewers think of guys who get us excited and are possibly really under the radar. Hoppy, Sean Noel, Silseth. So I think when Ron speaks about inside out syndrome, it really has to do with the fact that, like, hey, there's people here that are in it and we know what we have. And so I really appreciated him saying that. Mike, he also said that they are going to take advantage of every opportunity that the opposition gives us. That's our brand of baseball.
So, Johnny, I'm going to play a game with you right now.
Okay.
What's one opportunity that the Angels didn't come through on last season that they need to come through on this season? They hit a lot of home runs and did all of those things. But there was something about when runners were on base and they couldn't get them around and score. Is it runners in scoring position, Johnny? Is that what it is?
What is runners in scoring position, Alex? Yeah.
I love that he said we're going to take advantage of every opportunity, and that's how you come through in those moments. That's how you focus on what you need to do and take advantage of that. And you saw that with the Texas Rangers when Wash was the manager there. They would take advantage of those big moments, and it's why they made it to back-to-back World Series.
And I love that he said, that's our brand of baseball.
There's an identity. Yep.
We talked about it the other day, Mike.
Yep.
It was the Angels' brand of baseball, and their identity has been desperation. We got to get Trout and Ohtani to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Well, desperation is not an identity. And so we talked about, like, what do we want to see the Angels' identity be? And for me, it was boring, fundamental baseball, which I still think can be part of their identity.
Right.
But taking every advantage that the opposition gives us, I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does this mean for the team when it comes to next season? Well, let's specifically talk about Mike Trout. Wash said that he is going to meet with Trout soon. He also said he's going to meet with Rendon. There's going to be a phone call there. So somebody said Rendon's going to send him a voicemail, but I thought that was funny. He said he wants Mike's presence and performance every single day. He said, I know he's going to perform. The performance will happen, but I also want his presence. I loved that he distinguished between the both. I want his presence every day because when he's not performing, I want him to show the young guys how to handle that kind of struggle. He's going to be a leader. He's going to lead, and he's not going to lead alone. So, Johnny, is Wash the guy that can pull out that very vocal, very influential leader that is in Mike Trout but hasn't come out yet, at least in the locker room, at least in the clubhouse? It's come out on the field, but is Wash the guy that can reel that big fish and get that out of him and allow Trout to see himself not just as a player, but as a Derek Jeter type of leader for the Angels?
I think Wash is the guy to take Trout to the next level in terms of leadership, because we've always heard, like, oh yeah, Trout's a quiet leader. He leads by example.
Yeah.
But maybe, Mike, maybe he hasn't been shown how to be a leader. Certainly, Osmus isn't going to do it.
No.
Madden wasn't going to do it.
No.
Nevin wasn't going to do it. And yeah, Trout's been around guys like Torrey Hunter and Albert Pujols and Justin Upton. But sometimes you look at people and the admiration of them kind of clouds your vision of yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're always like subservient to who you admire, and like, oh, I can never be as good as them, or
Torrey's in the room, or Albert's in the room, and so I don't want to step on their toes.
Yeah. But I think Wash is going to help Trout understand and recognize, Trout, this is your team, bro. You signed this deal for better, for worse.
Yeah.
So step up
Yeah.
and be a presence and be here and show
Yeah.
these guys what it's like when you struggle and be a leader. And I love that he said he's going to be a leader, he's going to lead, and he's not going to lead alone. I really love that.
You said a statement. He's going to help Mike Trout get to, and then it wasn't the playoffs. It was he's going to help Mike Trout get to the level of leadership that's inside of him.
Yes.
The potential that he could be. Johnny, this team will be so much better when their focus isn't, if we could get the third wild card spot, that would be so great, right? But their focus is now, no, that's my star, and my star is going to be a star, and he's going to shine bright, and I'm going to help him shine bright. And that's when the Angels are going to be so much better. Does it happen this season? I hope so. But if it doesn't, I would love to see Mike Trout start to blossom and really lead these young guys, because Moniak, Ohapi, Neto, they're all ready.
Mike, I got a question for you, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Wash spoke a lot about like bringing the joy back, the positivity, working through the negativity. Look, we know what it's like to be happy Angel fans and have a good time when we go to the game and go, oh, great, Aaron Loop's coming in. No more of that, right?
Right.
But to me, the idea of negativity and joy and positivity, that sounds like buzzwords from John Carpino and Artie Moreno. And considering they're the ones who don't like negative lines of questioning and things like that, do you think that that's a bug that they placed in Ron Washington's ear, or do you think he's sincere when he means that, or do you think it's like a mix of both?
I think it's appropriate to ask that question. Here's how I'm going to answer it. Jerry Seinfeld has a bit about old people in Florida where he says they're driving cars and they're backing out and they say, I'm old and I'm backing out. Ron's 71 years old, and I think he is not going to look at these guys and go, what would you like me to say? Or allow them to influence him. I think Wash owns the room, and I think this is who he naturally is. Sure, it leans in the direction of what the state-run media has communicated over the last few years. But I think this is who he naturally is. And I think that he said, in amongst the joy and positivity, he said some really, really thoughtful and I would say like striking things.
Like substantial things,
yes,
right?
Trout's going to be the leader that he needs to be. I'm going to help him. These guys, if they lose focus, our coaches are going to help them find that focus again. They're not going to do this on their own. And so I loved how he addressed the negativity and allowed us to be hopeful while still acknowledging that. That's the difference between him and a Carpino. Carpino's like, you can't talk about that, Sam Blum.
It's
right?
artificial, yeah.
Yes, but with Wash, he's like, no, it sucks. And here's how it's going to be better. And so I like that he laid out what it was, and he's going to tell us what it is. And that was beautiful.
All right, so we're fired up. Fans are fired up.
Can you tell?
Fans want to run through a wall for Ron Washington. And Wash seems to have a vision for the team and what they're capable of in 2024. And Mike, the words are great. Like I said, he took us to baseball church yesterday, but at the end of the day, words are words, and there's still work left to do. Like there's a lot of things that the Angels need to address, and a lot of that, I mean, Ron Washington can't go out there and play,
right?
But I think that we're at a good starting point. And before we continue that discussion, let's talk about what Mickey Moniak had to say to Patrick and Gooby on the broadcast after the press conference. Moniak said that after hearing from Wash, he said, it's time to go to work. I wish it was February already. He said the group in the clubhouse is really tight-knit, and they're all ready to go to work and have Wash lead them. He said the mentality in the clubhouse for each of the guys is, what do I have to do better personally to put this team in a position to win? What are your thoughts on that?
It sounds very much like what you would want to hear from your team, but also it sounds like something that would really help us to understand the mindset of Mickey Moniak. We've given Zach Neto and Logan Ohapi a lot of accolades because they watched the other team celebrate and they stayed in the dugout for a long time. Johnny, don't discount or discredit Mickey Moniak.
Absolutely
and his
not.
Desire, right?
Yeah.
Like I think this guy is going to have a breakout year because I think he's got a manager that believes in him. He's got a manager that believes in this team. He had a good year under his belt last year. I think watch out for Mickey Moniak. I could see him putting up GA type of numbers for the Angels this year if he stays healthy. And with what Wash is bringing to this team, I think that mindset aligns completely with how Moniak is wired.
Moniak did mention too, he goes, I feel pretty confident in hitting lefties. I've done it, through college and in my career. So I hope that that's something that he feels good about coming into next season, because man, can you imagine if he's able to hit guys that are righties and lefties and put some power behind that? We saw a little bit of it. We saw that home run off of a lefty. And I really think that he can make some improvements there. Mike, like I said, we're all fired up.
Yep.
We're all excited for Wash as manager, but we know words can just be words and the manager is not the one playing the game. So I think it's important for us to discuss where the Angels are now. Like, let's take an inventory of where the Angels stand and what's left to be done. Yeah. Why don't you talk about where the Angels are right now?
They got a true leader since Mike Scioscia. He left in 2018, and they haven't had a good manager since Mike Scioscia left. And as much as we loved Scioscia, and there was also some issues, it's great to see somebody come in and command the room. We've often talked about how there are probably people out there who look at the Angels and think, man, if I could just put my fingerprints on this, if I could sink my teeth into this team, get my hands in the clay, mold them, I can make something out of that. That's what I felt yesterday as Wash was talking.
Totally.
He seems to be that guy, seems to be confident in what the Halos have and what they have the ability to do. So, Johnny, let me throw a question at you. Are we right to believe that the Angels have the talent there and that they just needed someone to be the fire starter for them?
Yeah, I think that this team is very talented. And I look at like the rotation, Mike. I look at Detmers and Sandoval and even Griffin Canning and what we have in Chase Silseth. And I know that Detmers struggled at times. I know Sandoval really took a step back.
Yeah.
But just a year prior, they were tearing it up. And they finished 2022 really well. Like, the talent is inside of them. I know a lot of people will say, like, this is a group of 3s and 4s or 4s and 5s. I honestly believe that at the very least, they can be 2s. Like, they can be guys who can follow an ace. They can be a guy who learns how to be an ace. And I think it's about time that somebody brings that out of them. And I think Wash being at the helm and then bringing in a coaching staff, I think is the right move. And he's going to find the right guys to bring that talent out of them and make something out of this clay. Again, we've been preaching it all along. There's tons of people out there who look at the Angels and go, man, if I could just, what are they doing? And so I'm so glad that Ron Washington is that guy. Mike, to me, Ron Washington has charisma, like up and down, man. And he's a guy that makes you want to listen to him.
Yeah.
He's a guy that makes you want to have joy and be excited for the Halos. He makes players want to play for him. We've said it before.
They need
you need somebody that you don't want to disappoint because you lost. Like, you don't want to lose for Ron Washington. I saw so many tweets about fans ready to run through walls for Wash and do all sorts of things. But I truly believe that he wants to bring out the best in who the Angels currently have. But I also believe that he cares. And like we mentioned before, I'm sure that Artie and Carpino were in his ear about the whole negativity thing. But when he speaks, I buy into it. And I think you're right. I think he navigated that whole thing well of like, it sucks, but we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I feel like I can buy in to what Ron is selling. And I think fans can feel comfortable doing that as well.
Yeah. Donnie, here's what's left. The Angels need to finish building out the coaching staff. And they're currently doing that. I do appreciate what Ron said about the staff and the potential about who he's bringing in. He said, we're going to put a staff together when the players go blind, we can see for them. When they can't slow down their heartbeat, we're going to slow it down for them. And he said, once we put our staff together, you're going to like what we get out of these players. We have to teach them every single day, never stop. We have to love them every single day and never stop. Understand that failing doesn't make them a failure. Consistent in our message, patient in their growth. Help them understand that just because you failed doesn't make you a failure. You can fail today and you can make up for it tomorrow. So the Angels, they have a lot to do with the coaches. They have a lot to do with free agency. I think that they need to get some starting pitching. I think they need to work on that bullpen, Johnny, and they need to get positional depth. That's another piece that we had to deal with last year. They got to do again this year. And watching Perry discuss Shohei on Bally Sports, we got to say that we didn't get the impression that he was super confident that Shohei is going to come back. Did you feel that same way?
Yeah, the way he spoke about it is how he's spoken about it before. And
yeah,
it was weird this time because, yes, he did talk about, like, you know, you got to have a plan A and a plan B and a plan C, which is great because it means that they are saying, well, if we get Shohei, it looks like this. If we don't, it looks like this. If we get him, but also it's different. Like maybe it's a short-term deal. It's plan C, whatever the case might be. So I'm glad that they're considering all of that. But the way he spoke about it was like, yeah, you know, Shohei, he had a great 3 years here and had 3 great seasons. And it's just like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like
between the lines.
Yeah. That's basically it, Mike. But
yeah,
listen, I know that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, but I also know the Angels like to play those things very close to the vest.
Yeah.
Listen, I whether Shohei stays or goes, I actually feel more excited to watch the young guys we have now and how Washington is going to work with them. And so, yes, we talked about it yesterday, how, you know, reuniting with Shohei makes a lot of sense. If it doesn't work out that way, after yesterday, I feel a lot more confident in the fact that, like, Perry got his guy. Perry has the chance to, you know, be a GM and kind of work this team into what the vision he has for it. And then you have Ron Washington, who just dazzled all of us yesterday, but more than just like dazzling and talking, actually brought some substance to the conversation. And so I know our mantra has been no expectations, but with Ron Washington here, and then with whatever potential moves the Angels make, I might have a little bit of expectations next season, but I'm just going to keep it at no expectations. But I am more excited to watch these guys play now that Ron Washington is here.
Thanks for making Locked On Ron Washington your first listen of the day. Hey, Locked On has launched its first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts like us on Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel.
Hey, give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Mike, you're going to want to do that because tomorrow is
Fan Mail Friday. So get your questions at us. You can leave us a voicemail. It's in the episode description, or it's on the screen right now if you're watching on YouTube, 714-409-6396. Love to hear from you. 30 seconds or less. Let us know what you're thinking about Ron Washington and other issues that the Angels are facing. We're fired up. We feel like you're fired up. Let's talk about it on Fan Mail Friday tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Yeah, get those questions in as soon as you can, so that way you can make sure they get on the show and we have a chance to answer them. We really look forward to hearing from you. Until tomorrow's show, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, and we look forward to seeing you back here for Fan Mail Friday.
Good old Wash. Thanks for firing us up.
Right? We needed that.
Absolutely.
Been
Nevin couldn't do that.